Hey guys, so it's about I think like 11:45 in the morning. Been up since 5, so I'm exhausted. Sitting here feeding the baby, and my 2-year-old's watching Spirit. He calls it Neigh because of the horses. He loves it. Um, anyway, so I didn't get to bed till like midnight because you can't do anything that you need to do until after everybody's in bed. So I finally get to wash my face and moisturize my face. Get some laundry changed around, get some things set up for the next day, clean up the living room a little bit, those kind of things. Mom stuff. But I wanted to hop on and I know in my intro video I talked about PTSD, and told you that my husband suffers from PTSD. So today after work, he actually has a therapy session. His therapist is amazing. We love him. He's done great things for my husband. So when I first met my husband, he had a German Shepherd who was his therapy dog, his emotional support dog. And she was amazing. When he used to have nightmares, he used to have nightmares every night, sometimes multiple times a night. And she would wake him, and comfort him until he went back to sleep. Well, about, it was a year in January, we had to have her put down, unfortunately. She had breast cancer that previous October, that we had removed. Kind of ironic, my dog had breast cancer and breast cancer awareness month. And then she ended up, we found cancer in her lungs, and her lungs were full of cancer. So they told us that chemo probably would not be helpful, so we opted not to put her through that, and we did eventually have her put down. Which, if anybody ever has to do that, there is a place called Angel Paws, and I don't know, we live in Ohio. I think they do Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. I don't know if they have other places in the United States. They are amazing. They will come to your home to put your animal down, so that your animal can be in their home. They can be comfortable. You can be with them. They bring them a McDonald's cheeseburger and give it to them. And then they take them and they will cremate them and all those things for you. It was amazing. The girl who came and did it was so sweet, so compassionate. And then after Sadie had passed, she was like, I'll give you guys a little bit of time. She went out and sat in the car and gave us just some time with her. And then just very compassionate. They were amazing. But anyway, so when we had Sadie put down, he obviously lost his emotional support animal. And that was really hard for him. And we noticed shortly after we had her put down that the nightmares came back. And he hadn't had them in, oh my gosh. We had been together a couple years, and I had never heard anything about him having one in that time frame. So the nightmares came back, and he was like, I think after they went away, just knowing that she was there if I had one, and that she would wake me up and comfort me, is what helped them go away. And when she was gone, he's like, I think just knowing she's not here if I have one is what made him come back. So that's when he started going back to therapy, because he had stopped at that point. And his therapist is amazing. They do EMDR treatment, as well as just talk therapy and things like that. And he doesn't just talk to him about PTSD. He talks to him about, life and what's going on, the normal things you talk to your therapist about. We did end up getting another German Shepherd. She just turned a year old, actually the day before my baby was born, so January 26th. We got her, she's a full-blood German Shepherd, just like Sadie was. We ended up getting them from the same breeder, and oddly enough, the dog that we got is the half-sibling of the German Shepherd that we previously had. They have the same father. So she's still a baby, she's still a little wild. We're still working on training her, but I'm hoping that we will be able to train her as an emotional support animal as well, for TJ. But it's a lot, since he started therapy. His nightmares have gotten better. Still has them, here and there, But I mean, it was back to like every night, multiple times a night, you know, and he wasn't sleeping, and he was just very anxious. And, you know, like I said in my intro video, I have never struggled with PTSD, and it can happen at any time, but I thankfully have not dealt with it this far, as an ER nurse. So one of the things I like to talk about is being the spouse of someone with PTSD, or the loved one of someone with PTSD, because it's kind of hard to navigate how to support them. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, you know, just you let me know what you need. And he had never talked to me about what his dreams were about, or, you know, things like that, things that made him anxious. So when those kind of started coming back, was when we had that conversation, because I'm like, I don't need details of your dreams and stuff, but I do need to know the things that make you anxious so that I can help facilitate, you know, those situations. So one thing is, and I actually had noticed this earlier in our relationship, but I never knew why. If we go out to a restaurant, he wants to sit in a booth, and he wants to be like against a wall where he can see the exits. And I never really paid too much attention to it. And he said the reason I do that is because if there was ever an active shooter situation or someone came in, I want to know how to get us out and no one can come up behind me. I like being against a wall or in a corner so that I have view of the entire room. And when he said that, I'm like, that makes complete sense, you know? And in his mind, that is the first thing he thinks of when he goes to the restaurant, is like, this is where I have to be sitting. And if for some reason we can't, he is like anxiety ridden, you know, the whole time. He's looking around, and you know, if we're in the booth, he doesn't want to be on the outside. He wants to be on the inside, you know, so that he absolutely knows there's no way anybody can get behind him. So, you know, there's things like that. Then he decided that he wanted to share some of his dreams with me. My 16-year-old is not biologically his. I have her from a previous relationship. We have a great co-parenting situation, which is amazing, and I'm sure I'll talk about that in some of my videos. But he has been in her life for 6 years now, and he is very attached to her. They are very attached to each other, and they have a very good relationship. So one of the dreams he had was about a wreck that he responded to that involved a teenage girl her age. And now that he has her, he started having these dreams, but instead of seeing that girl's face, he sees her face. And I can imagine that is traumatizing. One, reliving that situation in general in your dreams, in your sleep, when you're trying to rest, but having a child the same age and sex of that victim and seeing your child's face in your sleep in that vulnerable state, asking for help, and you trying to help them and you can't. So that was one of the dreams that he would have, and there's several others, but I would always ask him, what do you need from me? What can I do to help you? You know? And sometimes he'll, you know, be restless in his sleep, and I know he's probably dreaming about something, and I just kind of like rub his head or rub his arm or his back, or, you know, whatever I can reach, just softly, you know, to kind of like calm him down a little bit. And then once he stops, I just kind of like curl up next to him and either rub his head or rub his back till he falls asleep. And he says that helps, because that's what Sadie used to do. She used to go up and either nuzzle up against his face, or she'd lick his face to wake him up, and then she'd cuddle with him. I'm not gonna lick his face, but you know. So I mean, those kinds of things. And then I had talked to him about, you know, a few other things, and after his therapy, he said that one of the things that he really needs is just decompression time, because he said it's emotionally exhausting, those sessions, even though they're only an hour. And I can totally understand that, you know, especially when he does the EMDR, because it's not really like hypnosis, but it's like walking you back through scenarios and situations that you've been in to kind of help you recover the things that you've blocked out, as part of like your coping mechanism, you know. So I can imagine it's exhausting emotionally and mentally. So after his sessions, he's like, you know, sometimes I just need 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes to just be by myself in the quiet and just decompress. And I get that, you know, and that's what he needs. And so I try my best to give that to him, because, you know, when he walks in the doors, it's like chaos, you know. Got a toddler and a newborn and a teenager, and, you know, sometimes it's just chaos. But I try to give him that because that's what he needs. Hi, Bubba. So, I mean, that's a difficult part of being the spouse of someone with PTSD, because you want to know how to support them, and it's okay, and you want to support them the best you can, but sometimes they don't even know what they need. So, I mean, that can be a difficult, you know, line to draw, because at first he didn't really know. So I was kind of at a loss, and you feel helpless because you know that they're struggling and there's nothing you can do, you know. So you try to do the best you can, and sometimes it's frustrating because, you know, you need things from them, but they're just not in a place to give you what you need, and that's hard too, and it can put a lot of strain on a relationship. So, you know, we had to make sure that we were communicating with each other and just, you know, telling each other what the other one needs, and just being very verbal with our needs and our intentions and things like that, as far as, you know, his PTSD and just like our normal life and things like that. So it's a road for sure, and there's ups and downs, and, you know, he'll be doing better and then he'll have a little relapse, and, you know, luckily he found a therapist who is amazing, who he really connects with and really helps him, and is very available if he needs him, which is amazing. So he started a Facebook group called Frontline Battleground, which is for first responders, emergency staff, and also like family and friends of them who suffer with PTSD. So our goal with that, because it's funny, I always say he never listens to me, but he said, you know, you said something to me that just stuck with me, and it was, it's okay not to be okay. And I told him that. I said, it's okay not to be okay. You don't have to be okay all the time. You know, everybody is allowed to have those moments, no matter what it's for. You're allowed to not be okay. That's acceptable. It's okay to not be okay. And he's like, that just stuck with me, you know? And I feel like not enough people have that mindset. He said, you know, police officers, they think that, oh, you know, they're just supposed to be big and strong, and, you know, this is what they signed up for, and, you know, they knew they were going to see these things, like they should have just expected it, you know. Why sign up for a job like this if you can't deal with it, you know? And there's kind of like that stigma, you know. Sorry, I was watching my 2-year-old. But, you know, the same thing with, you know, ER nurses or EMS, firemen. You know, they're like, well, you know, you had to know you were going to see that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know, but it's a little different when it's right in front of you and it's right in your face. And you never really know how you're going to react until it happens. So we've been trying to spread the word about that Facebook group, which I will actually put the handle in the comments, because I think the more people we get on there, the better it's going to be, and the more awareness we can spread that it's okay not to be okay. And we need to let people know that it's okay to ask for help, because, you know, some people think that's going to be the end of their career if they come out and say, oh my God, you know, I'm having these nightmares, or, you know, I have anxiety about this, or this, that, and the other. People think they can't do their job. You can still do your job. You just need to find a way to find peace with things. And that comes in all different forms. That looks so different for different people. For me, I am one of those that I don't always want to talk about it. Most nights when I get off work, I will get in the car, I leave my phone on Do Not Disturb, I don't turn the radio on, and I just drive 30 minutes home in silence. And that is my decompression time. Recently, I had a 4-year-old little girl that died in a car accident. And I was doing compressions on her. And the doctor finally called it and was like, there's just nothing we can do. And then I hadn't walked out of the room for 2 minutes. And here comes her dad. And I go right into that room and start taking care of him. And I'm right at his bedside, and all he keeps saying is, how's my baby? How's my baby? Please find out about my baby. Please go check on my daughter. And the whole time I know that she's not alive. And I was actually very early pregnant with my 3rd baby at the time. So, I'm already hormonal and emotional. And also being a mom, it's like you put yourself in their situation. Like, if someone's telling me, like, oh, they're working on her, right? There's people with her, and you're asking about your baby, you'd have to strap me to that bed or knock me out, because I'd be climbing out of that bed trying to find my baby, and it tears you apart. And so, literally right after I walked out of the room, I just burst out in tears. And I have an amazing assistant nurse manager who came up to me and just hugged me. We had a nurse practitioner who actually used to work at the local children's hospital, and she came up and just hugged me, and she's like, I know, it's okay. I know, it's hard. And I talked to my husband about it, and when I got home that night, I went and kissed my 2-year-old. I had texted my teenager and told her how much I loved her, because she was at her dad's. And I went and got in the shower and just cried. And that was about a year ago, actually. Almost a year ago. And I can still see her face. I can still see his face. I remember everything she was wearing. And that sticks with me. But I do find peace in the fact that she wasn't alone. We were there with her. A lot of people knew I was pregnant, and one of the nurses came in while I was doing compressions on her and was like, do you want to switch me? Like, I'll switch you out, trying to be courteous, because she knew I was pregnant and it was probably a hard situation. I said, no, I'm good. I can't leave her. I felt like from the second you came in this room, I've been doing compressions on you, and I've been pumping your heart, and I need to see this through. I can't give up on her. I can't leave her until it's done. So that's the piece that I have with that, is that I didn't leave her, and I did everything I could for her. But it still sticks with me. I still think about it all the time. So there's things like that, but I also have peace in the fact that I know I stuck with her and I didn't leave her. So people find peace in different ways. Some people would have a really hard time finding peace with that situation. I'm sure I've got a lot of nursing left in me. There'll be a time that I have trouble finding peace in situations. But we have to do the best we can to make it okay to not be okay. So, like I said, I will attach our Facebook group in the comments. If you would like to join, please, or if you know someone who suffers from PTSD or has a family member that suffers from PTSD, first responders, emergency medical staff, military, please send them to our page. They can private message us and share their stories. They can post on our page, if they have any resources that they want to share, please, we're welcome to it. So that being said, sorry, I know this is kind of a long video, but something we're very passionate about is trying to help people with these issues. So like, subscribe, share, check out our Facebook page. And now I'm gonna try to get these boys to take a nap. Wish me luck, because the 2-year-old does not like